Now to a plan to destroy a Midtown shopping center. Moving forward today, the Omaha City Council voted to approve the project to build luxury apartments at 46th and California and add retail space. Developers looking for $9 million in taxpayer funds for this project. Residents previously told First Alert 6 they did not agree with using those funds for the project since it does not include affordable housing. Others said the development would benefit the area. During today's meeting, many brought up concerns about developers actually making an effort to consider the neighbors' requests.
The process for citizen engagement seems to be incredibly problematic.
You know, Mitch has graciously met with us and said, okay, you can submit a design, but do we have any apparatus in place to hold him accountable to the community?
I think we have a good track record of doing that. We worked on a project, Danny and I together, at 39th and Dodge, where there was a lot of neighborhood interest. 39th and Dodge, there was a lot of neighborhood interest on that project. And, you know, post-council making their decision, there were changes that we made. One of the big ones was they wanted to see more parking. That was a huge change that we ended up making.
The developer plans to invest $110 million privately in the project. He also assured the council they wouldn't evict any of the existing businesses in the area. Neighbors have been concerned about keeping those longtime family businesses.